Autumn 1950. The smell of victory filled the air. After Incheon and Seoul's liberation, U.S. and Seoul's liberation, troops marched north, driven by the belief that the war would end before the year did. General Douglas MacArthur was confident, almost prophetic. "Home by Christmas," he said as soldiers cheered. The enemy seemed shattered, the road to the Yalu River open. But beyond the northern mountains, a new storm was gathering. In Beijing, Mao Zedong studied the maps with a silent stare. He feared an American army on China's doorstep more than another war. When MacArthur's columns crossed the 38th parallel, Mao gave a quiet order that would change the world. "The volunteers will cross the river." They came at night, slipping over the frozen Yalu beneath a moonless sky. No lights, no engines, just footsteps and breath. 300,000 men moving like wind through the valleys. Their uniforms were the color of dust, their discipline like silence. And when dawn came, the mountains erupted. Bugles cried through the fog. Red flares rose like a second sunrise. The Chinese army struck in human waves, their cries echoing from ridge to ridge. U.N. Units scattered and exhausted found themselves surrounded in the snow. The surprise was total, the fear immediate. The advance that had begun as triumph turned into a desperate retreat. Men stumbled through blizzards, leaving behind weapons frozen to the ground. The temperature dropped to -30. The air burned to breathe. At the chosen reservoir, Marines were encircled by 10 divisions. They fought day and night to carve a path to the sea. Each mile cost blood, frostbite, and brothers. When they finally reached the coast, they brought not defeat but survival. One Marine officer radioed, "We are not retreating. We are attacking in another direction." It became the line of the war, bitter, proud, and true. By the first weeks of 1951, the dream of victory was gone. Seoul fell again. Its bridges cracked under the weight of refugees. Smoke rose over the Han River for the second time. MacArthur demanded permission to strike China itself, to bomb the bridges, the bases, perhaps even Beijing. Washington refused. President Truman, fearing a Third World War, drew a hard line. "Expand this war," he said, "and we may lose the world." The conflict between the two men grew into history's argument. MacArthur saw himself as the guardian of freedom. Truman saw himself as the guardian of balance. On April 11, 1951, Truman made the hardest call of his presidency. He relieved MacArthur of command. The general returned home to applause, but the war he left behind was in chaos. Then came Matthew Ridgway, the soldier with no illusions. He arrived at the front wearing grenades on his chest, not for show but as a reminder that life was fragile and courage must be carried close to the heart. Ridgway walked the trenches, spoke to the wounded, and listened to fear until it became resolve. Under his leadership, discipline returned like warmth to a frozen body. He rebuilt the lines, tightened logistics, and turned retreat into rhythm. By February, the UN forces began to push back. Operation Thunderbolt, then Killer, then Ripper. Each code name marked a heartbeat of recovery. In March, Seoul was liberated for the third time. The city lay in ruins, but church bells rang again through the smoke. For the first time in months, soldiers smiled without guilt. Ridgway's calm, methodical command had done what glory could not restore: order. By April, the battlefront had returned almost exactly to where it began in 1950. 1 million dead, and the line had moved only miles. The war, once about conquest, had become a war of endurance. Each side now fought not for land, but for time. Summer turned to autumn again, and the Korean peninsula sank into stalemate. The 38th parallel became a scar, a wound that refused to close. Every hill had a name, and every name had a body count. Heartbreak Ridge, Bloody Ridge, The Hook, Porkchop Hill. The war no longer moved, it just bled. Soldiers dug into the mountains like moles. Tunnels, bunkers, and trenches wound for miles. At night, the sound of shovels replaced gunfire. In the morning, the fog hid everything but fear. Letters from home arrived soaked with tears. One soldier wrote, "We fight all day for a hill, then lose it by night. I no longer remember what peace sounds like." Above them, the sky turned into another battlefield. MiG-15s from the north clashed with American F-86 Sabres. In the first jet versus jet duels in history, the air thundered like iron wings. Each pilot flew not for country, but for survival in the clouds. Meanwhile, in Kaesong, peace talks began. Delegates sat at long tables, Maps spread like wounds across the surface. They spoke of borders, prisoners, and honor, while outside shells kept falling. The contrast was unbearable. Pens writing while men died. But even that was progress. For the first time in years, someone was trying to end it. 1952 arrived quietly, bringing no victory and no peace. The front line solidified into an unyielding wall. Rain turned trenches into rivers. Winter froze them into graves. The soldiers called it the static war. Every sunrise looked the same: gray sky, gray smoke, gray souls. Yet life persisted. In dugouts, men brewed coffee over candle flames, shared cigarettes, and sang songs from home to drown the guns. The war had taken everything except humanity itself. Far away in Washington, a new president took office, Dwight D. Eisenhower. He promised an end to this endless war. He traveled secretly to Korea, standing on a hill that smelled of cordite and rain, watching the smoke drift across the valley. He said only one word: enough. The negotiations moved again, this time to Panmunjom. For months, diplomats argued over every line: how to exchange prisoners, how to draw the border, how to define a peace that was not really peace. Outside the conference hall, the war went on as if nothing had changed. Finally, on July 27, 1953, after 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days, the guns went silent. The armistice was signed not in celebration, but in exhaustion. No victory parades followed, only quiet funerals and long train rides home. In the villages, survivors emerged from bunkers. Farmers saw their fields again, and mothers counted their sons' names carved in wood. The war had ended exactly where it began, but the world had changed forever. One veteran later said, "We stopped the fire, but not the sorrow." The Korean War was not a story of winners and losers. It was a story of endurance, a testament to those who stood in the cold and refused to fall.